Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever the hell you are, and welcome to the Laugh and Learn podcast with America's Funniest Handyman. I'm America's Funniest Handyman, Tommy Highland, and this is my podcast. And the purpose behind this particular podcast is in the title, to laugh and to learn. So the most important thing I want everybody to know as we move on down the road and episode after episode is that every single episode is going to be chock full of some really good homeowner information and do-it-yourself stuff about how to fix things around your house, mostly geared toward the beginners and the intermediate level do-it-yourselfers. This podcast really isn't engineered for the experts and the masters like myself and my guest today. This is to help you, the homeowner.
Aww.
And I reserve the right to make you laugh and giggle sometimes. But the name of the podcast is Laugh and Learn. So I also reserve the right to not make you laugh all the time. There will be serious moments where we have heartfelt discussions about what's going on in people's houses and what might be going on in the lives of my guests, or maybe even myself. But we'll always steer back to getting on track and inserting a few gratuitous fart sounds and who knows what along the way. And we'll tell some funny stories. We're going to have some crank calls to contractors and big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, because that's always fun. And we'll share some job site stories. And that's about it. A little bit about me and why you should even listen to this podcast, and who the hell am I to tell you how to fix stuff around your house. My name is Tommy Highland. I've been in the trades for over 30 freaking years now. Can you believe that? 30 goddamn years. And I've done a whole bunch of different stuff. I've got a long list of different odd jobs that I've had throughout the years.
Interesting.
I've probably been a carpenter more than I've been anything, but everything equates to me being a jack of all trades, and that's what a handyman is. A handyman is typically a person that has been in the trades long enough to have done a whole bunch of different things. That they can do a little bit of electrical, a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of carpentry, and a little bit of drywall, a little bit of HVAC. And they probably are really good at one of those things and pretty good at the other ones. And that's me. I am a master carpenter with all my fingers. So that's another good reason to listen to me when I'm talking about carpentry is I'm safe and patient. But I also have experience doing plumbing and electrical and all kinds of things. And that's how I make my living. Because during the day, I'm not America's funniest handyman. During the day, I have a business that I've been running for quite a few years now called America's Best Handyman. And I've been doing that for quite a few years now. So I started a YouTube channel in order to help you folks in the general population learn about how to do different things around the house. And my YouTube channel is geared toward teaching some of those basic skills, but not boring you along the way. I like to inject humor and characters into all of my videos. And the reason I started that YouTube channel called America's Funniest Handyman, you can find it on YouTube. You're probably on the page right now watching the damn podcast. So if you're watching this on a different platform, you can go over to YouTube and check out my videos. Every single video that's a DIY video. I teach you exactly what I'm teaching you, but I will not bore you to death. And like I said, the reason that I started the podcast in the first place is because I myself, whenever I have to learn how to do something new, I watch a lot of DIY videos. And most of them are boring as hell. Lots of mouth breathing, lots of old guys who don't know how to edit video, 15 minutes of a video that could have been literally 3 minutes long, and they're just boring. So my channel is geared toward teaching you how to do the things that you want to learn how to do and making you laugh a little bit along the way, so that by the time you're done watching one or several of my videos, the takeaway for you is, oh, I just learned how to install a gas cooktop in my kitchen, and that guy is a fucking whack job. Okay. That being said, enough about me. Let's talk about my guest on my first podcast. I could not be more honored to have this guy on my podcast, because a long time ago, in a different life, when I was actually a general contractor, Andon was one of my apprentices. And so when I started working with Andon had a couple of years of experience on job sites doing different things. I'm not going to give too much away about how we met and all that stuff, but over the years, he has worked and done all kinds of different stuff in the trades. And again, I'm not going to give too much away because I want him to tell his own story. But at this point, Andon and I have known each other for almost 20 years. 20 years in the trades now, almost, not quite. He has a business that he started last year called Keystone Handyman Solutions, based in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. And I got to tell you, I would consider Andon a master handyman, master I would say he's not quite a master carpenter, but pretty damn close. But he is a master plumber. Andon's forte is plumbing, and he knows everything there is to know about plumbing, and he knows a shit ton about carpentry, because I taught him some good stuff in the beginning. But over the years that we've been separated, he kept up along in the trades and learned a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I'm glad to have him back in my life as a friend and a colleague. And I'm really happy to have him here on the podcast, because I think he's going to end up being an infrequent guest slash Al to my Tim the Toolman Taylor. And we're going to have a lot of fun conversations helping you guys learn how to do stuff. So,
well, thanks for having me on.
Andon Heinberger.
I appreciate it. It's fun to be here, and I can't wait to see where this goes.
He's being a little shy because he's not used to being on camera and on a microphone like me. So I'm just going to ask Andon some questions, and a little by little, Andon will loosen up and tell us his story. So I guess first and most important is, how long have you been working in the trades, Andon?
So, not an exact number, give or take a year or two, but 20 plus years in the trades. On and off for some things, but I have done some sort of trade work and learned more about some part of the trades, whether it be carpentry or plumbing or fabrication and welding and land surveyor, over the course of the last 20 years. Did some hard years as a carpenter, building bathrooms and kitchens. Did some hard years as a plumber, under houses, in attics.
You've been in your share of crawl spaces.
I have, and I hate them.
Fun stuff. What, before we get back to your story, what is your least favorite thing about being in a crawl space under a house?
You know, when you're younger, it's all about the bugs and the gross. When you get older, it's just it's just confined space, and not knowing how long you have to be under there, and it's hard.
You don't like being closed in?
Well, I don't know if I cared as much as I do now. I'm older. You have certain other challenges. But yeah.
For me, my least favorite thing about crawl spaces is just the thought of Black Widow. That's the only thing that bothers me about crawl spaces, is because that's where they
live.
lurk.
Yes.
I could give a crap about any other bug or any other thing that's in a crawl space, especially where we live. Like we don't live, I would probably be a little more nervous if we lived in a hot, dry desert area like rattlesnakes and stuff. But where we live, brown recluse and black widows are the only things that could put a hurt on.
You know, usually if I'm in a crawl space, I have long sleeve shirt, gloves, eye protection, respirator, stuff in my ears, a hat.
Good.
Something around my neck.
Yeah.
You know, my pants are tucked into my socks.
Yeah.
You're like, you should be ready for, it doesn't matter, because you have no idea what's about to go down in a crawl space.
Right. So you've never been in a crawl space mostly nude or partially,
No.
like you always,
Not on purpose.
never free balling, always wearing clothing.
A lot of protection. Yes. Yep.
Like I mean, I'm not trying to get too far into the weeds here, but if you are going into a crawl space, just make sure to have your clothes on. At least have your clothes on. If not,
idea.
coveralls.
Yeah.
And safety gear, like you said, right?
Yep.
Okay, but let's back up. Okay,
right.
so what?
20 years. Yeah.
What was your first job in the trades?
So my first job in the trades.
How old were you?
Well, let me start when I was a little kid, being exposed to the trades. My uncle, I grew up in Northern California.
Yep, that's something Andon and I have in common. We both grew up in Northern California.
Up in the north. This is where, you know, in the valley where they have all the cherry trees and all the agriculture.
Yuba City.
Ubacity.
Ubacity. I love that.
Ubacity.
Ubacity, California.
A strange little town. Very
Yep.
diverse. Very cool.
Yep.
Grew up there.
Not as much dental work going on in Ubacity.
Depends where you're at.
This podcast,
I'll tell you this.
incidentally, is brought to you by Yuba City Auto Body. We're going to be up all night. We might as well fix your car.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But it's a strange place, Yuba City. Grew
Okay,
up there.
back to your uncle.
Back to my uncle. Was a framer in the 80s. In the 80s. So I was around. My grandfather, tradesman, always had a hammer, an Eastman.
Easton. I think it's Easton.
I always forget. Anyways,
Look it up,
the
Mark.
blue handle, framing hander, you know,
Yeah,
you got it.
I got one
Chainsaw,
I have one in my truck.
It's called
in
an
my-
S-wing, you
building,
dummies.
doing stuff,
not important.
being handy.
Okay.
So first job I ever had as an actual paid for doing a trade, I had someone pay me in the summer to do roofing for a job, and me and my brother almost died. We didn't actually almost die, but we thought we were gonna.
How old were you?
16.
And were you helping somebody, or were you?
We were told to rip the roof off, and they
Okay.
were on the ground pointing, and we were up on the roof,
Gotcha.
and
Steep pitch.
it wasn't too bad.
Typical
But it was
California.
California. It was
flat rancher.
114 outside, the sun.
Yeah, in the valley it gets real hot.
It was hot.
Okay.
And we both, by the end of the week, because it was my dad's friend, and we were helping him out for this job, and he's like, I got 2 sons, and
How'd you almost die, from the heat or from the fall?
heat. From the heat.
Not drinking enough water.
Well, we were drinking plenty of water. It just was hard. Like,
Yeah.
if you'd never done roofing in 115 in the middle,
even hotter on the
it's
roof.
harder on the roof.
Yeah.
You start.
115 on the ground, 135 on the
You
roof.
can get dehydrated. You can just get tired,
Yeah.
and all the radiant heat's coming up.
Yep.
You know, and you're just it's hard work. It's hard work. It's
Roofing is
16-year-old.
very hard work. One of the toughest trades.
Got a lot of respect for roofers.
Yep. Especially the ones that stay off of the metal.
Especially those.
But, you know, if you spend a lot of time on a steep pitched roof, you start to understand why a roofer might start getting into meth.
You could.
Because it
You
hurts
could.
your ankles, man.
You got
It
to.
hurts
It's
your
a
ankles
different
and your
kind of an
knees,
animal.
man.
You know, some people are very good at it. They have teams.
It's
that
like
can,
being a floor guy
On
on
the
an
roof.
angle.
yeah, it's really good. So that was my first trade job.
So what was when did you actually start working as a tradesman?
So I got a job when I was 19 as an apprentice in a cabinet shop.
Okay.
And the story, you know, there's a lot of story, you know, we all go through our things. But when I was 19, I was just coming out of a lot of trouble and dark times.
Yeah.
we all have, what we go through in high school, and we're going into college and all that stuff, trying to figure the world out. So I got a job in a cabinet shop with one other guy who was the foreman. I was the apprentice, and I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I would wait out by the road, and it was up in the mountains in Pollock Pines. Cold up there.
Pollock Pines,
California.
California.
Yeah,
Okay.
as you're, it's about 2 hours before you get Lake Tahoe. And I would see him coming over, and he would pick me up at 4:30. I don't know why we had to start that early every day. I think he was just trying to,
That's just how he was.
That's how he was.
Some guys
And then
are like that.
we would build cabinets all day, and my job was to do whatever I was told and learn how to build cabinets. So we each got a 16-foot tape measure all the way down to 64ths. So when I started learning how to take measurements and make cuts, I learned carpentry backwards. A lot of people learn framing first, and they get a big tape measure. It's 25 Stanley 25-foot tape, But I started in the finish building cabinets.
Very precision
very,
down to a 64th of an inch. So how long did you do that for?
I worked at that cabinet shop for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then you ended up being a barista
Yes.
for a while, and that's how I met you.
Yep.
Right?
So
I met you at the Starbucks you moved to Pennsylvania.
I moved to Pennsylvania.
Well, you moved to Virginia, then you moved to Pennsylvania.
That's right.
And you were working at the Starbucks that was the closest Starbucks to my
That's right.
house at
Westchester
the time.
Pike and Eagle Road.
So I was at GC.
Uh-huh.
I had a small remodeling company.
Yep.
I'd known you for a little while.
You like the cheddar scone and a medium coffee, black coffee.
Good memory. And so that's when you started working for me. You worked for me for a couple of years as a carpenter's apprentice.
Yep, same type of thing, only
Not as precision.
different
We
kind of
weren't
work.
making cabinets.
We were making kitchens, and
Yeah.
we were doing whatever job that we were working all together.
Whatever I could scrape up.
Whatever it was. That was right around 2008. So everybody knows what happened then.
Yeah. 2 years, right?
Yep. So that really good experience. Some of the things you taught me, which didn't come into play later as I work with other contractors. You work with the best and you work with the worst.
Right.
And there's
all different kinds.
There's all different kinds.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that don't have clean job sites. And one of the things that you taught me was job site's going to be clean. And at the end of every day, all the tools are wrapped up in a neat little pile. So when people look at your tools when you're gone, they know that you're organized and that everything's done on purpose, and it doesn't look like a bomb went off in their space. That's a big deal, and I've been doing that ever since. And
you don't trust. I don't trust somebody that's working on my house
right
that leaves the job site a mess. I don't trust that they're taking the time and the care to make sure that the job is good. And that's the same thing when I have to hire a carpenter. Like when I used to have to, I work by myself now.
Yep.
But when I used to have to hire carpenters, I used to call it the parade of morons.
Are you making fun of me?
It wasn't because carpenters are morons. It's because there's a lot of morons that claim to be carpenters.
Yeah, there sure is.
And
a lot of a lot of master carpenters.
I'm like,
don't
dude,
know
it's
that.
9 a.m. You smell like beer and cigarettes.
Yeah.
And this is a job interview.
Yeah.
Did you know that you needed to be clean
and
today?
you're 390 pounds, and we're going to do baseboard all day.
Right. So I used to look at their trucks. I would just hey, can I take a peek at your truck? And if their truck was a mess,
that was a good indication.
I typically would not want to hire them, because when somebody shows up, and I'm the same way with my customer. We're not going to get into how much we charge hourly for what we do, but we charge nice hourly rate, which means that like my customers are not paying me to look for my Sawzall.
Correct.
They're paying me because I know where my Sawzall is when I need it, and I can just go grab it.
Yes.
So nobody wants to pay you to look for your tools.
The most efficient. You got to be the most efficient, proficient, and customers want it clean, it nice.
Yeah.
Because they can trust the process. If the process looks like we need therapy, as by the time we're done,
Yeah.
they don't really care about the finish because they watched the whole thing happen.
Yep.
So they feel what they feel when you're done, and they look at it. They remember what it was like to have you in their house.
Yeah.
And
It's intimate.
It shouldn't cause them trauma.
No.
They should enjoy it, and
Yeah.
you should too. So,
But you and I are on it in both. You and I really pride ourselves on providing not just good skills sets, but good customer service, which isn't
100%.
that common in the trades. But okay, so let's get back to
yep.
trying to wrap up your journey.
So-
So you worked for me for a couple years as a carpenter's apprentice. Then you went on to.
So, real quick, I got married. And
I
then
remember that.
Decided I wanted to introduce my wife to California. She's from Pennsylvania, from California. Took her to California for 1 year. As I was in California, the whole time I was there, I worked as a plumber and a service plumber. And just so you know, there are two types of plumbing. There's new work plumbing, there's service plumbing. Service plumbing is line cleans. And seeing and finding the silliest things you've ever seen the day before Thanksgiving because someone dumped an entire pot full of spaghetti down their drain and their whole family's coming over and they're panicking.
Yep.
So for a year, and then I moved back to Pennsylvania, got a job working in the city as a carpenter, again, kitchens, bathrooms, and because I had plumbing experience from that year before and the economy was really struggling, you couldn't, that's when everything started you can't just be a carpenter now. You have to know another trade proficiently because, you know, there was 6 or 7 other people that were trying to get that job. So, so I worked 4 years there, and then I went back to California again with my wife. I worked 3 years for another contractor, kitchens, bathrooms again. I moved
Doing both carpentry and plumbing, or mostly
Yes.
plumbing, or what?
both.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of working with my younger brother, who became a carpenter about 8 years before.
Oh, I didn't know that.
With
What's your
me.
brother's name?
His name's Aubrey,
Okay.
and super cool dude. He actually works for the union in Sacramento now, building hospitals.
Cool.
He's a super. He knows his stuff in and out.
But he's a nice guy.
He's a super nice guy. Yeah.
But that doesn't fit the superintendent job profile. Most of the superintendents that I've known in my career have been assholes.
Well, there's
It seems to be the job qualification to get a job as a superintendent, especially in the union.
Well,
you got to be kind of an asshole.
You do, and I'll give him. Aubrey is a wonderful person.
I would say,
but
and I'll say
don't-
that, and
you
I
don't-
will say that with a straight face to most of the superintendents
Yes.
that I still know
Yes.
in the electricians union, because I
100%.
worked in the electricians union for 6 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, and most of the electricians that I know would agree with me that most of the superintendents are assholes, and I don't mean assholes like, hey, they're just a jerk on the job.
Right.
I mean, this isn't somebody that I would have over to my house.
Right.
But anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you worked with Aubrey for a little bit,
Yep.
and then
Okay. And then I moved a little bit away. California's hot. So I looked for a different kind of a job, but still in the trades. And I got a job, and I ran a gas yard and a welding supply shop in town for 2.5 years, 2 years. And then I moved back to Pennsylvania again. And I was a land surveyor for 2 years.
2 years. Was it 2 years that you did
Year
that?
and a half.
Wow, year and a half.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Year and a half.
All right.
And then it was like, I got this call from this guy who I used to know.
Are you
And
talking about me, man?
he said, you should be a handyman. And so I was like,
And what'd you think on
I
that
thought,
first
what the-
phone call?
What the hell? Like, yeah, I was like, first of all, I was like, babe, you're not going to believe who just called me. You know, Tommy Highland. Because I had a conversation with her 2 weeks before that, because I'm watching your videos online thinking, I can do that. And you look like you're having a blast. And I told her maybe I should start a business. 2 weeks later, you call me out of nowhere, and we're like, let's go have dinner. and the rest is history. Like, started a business. We've worked together. We worked back then. We're working together now.
You know, that was really cool for me for a whole bunch of reasons. But at the time, the call was almost necessary because I had so much work, so many leads coming in that I was starting to just turn people away.
Right.
When you have a 3 or 4 month waiting list for carpentry projects and household handyman projects, whatever, a lot of people don't want to wait 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And I would say, hey, you know, if you need to find somebody else, and go ahead. And I was like, man, I'm you know, it would be nice. And then I knew you had moved back. We hadn't talked that much, but I remember thinking, if there's anybody I know that could do this, it's Andon. Andon could do this. And I kept thinking about you for quite a few months.
Cool,
I was
man.
like, Andon could do this. And
isn't it funny?
I knew that you were doing the land survey thing, but I also knew that you weren't making much money at it. And I was like, God, Andon could make easily 2 or 3 or 4 times what he's making with them and be his own boss. So I hit you up and
that was huge.
That was just awesome. It was just awesome because now
I
we see
appreciate
each other all the time.
Yeah, we can hang out. We can be goofy.
We get to
do jobs together.
Yeah.
I'm not romping around out in the middle of Pennsylvania trying to take a laser shot through with prism and
we we nerd out constantly about this stuff.
We do.
We are constantly talking about handyman stuff all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
Better way, easier way, a new trick, a new jig, a new tool.
Yep.
Did you see this thing? Oh, you got to use this. And then high class holes.
So we're going to get
like
to today's topic, which I forgot to mention earlier at the beginning, but no big deal. Today's topic, we're talking about doors, door installations, door tricks, door adjustments.
Yep.
All kinds of things. But before, let's see here, before we start talking about doors, which is our next segment, we're going to hear from one of today's sponsors, which is Wacky Willie's Wide World of Power Tools. Come on down to Wacky Willie's Wide World of Diverted Drills and Pilfered Power Tools. Get yourself a power drill. Get yourself an impact driver, a tape measure, a belt sander, air compressors, you name it. Get them now because Wacky Willie's can't be beat. With prices so low, he's practically giving it all away. Shop around, get the best prices you can find. Then go to Wacky Willie, and Wacky Willie will beat those prices guaranteed. And remember, Wacky Willie guarantees you, the largest selection of power tools in the entire tri-state area, staffed with service amateurs that will match or beat any price you can come up with. The largest selection at the guaranteed. Wacky Willie's prices are deranged. Okay, we are back. Don't forget to get down to Wacky Willie's this weekend. I don't think that sale is going to be, I don't think it's going to last forever. And
Probably not.
Wacky Willie's is, his prices are insane. Anyway, today's topic, doors. Let's just start off with one of the most recent incidences that you and I shared. Because we had this, Andon and I had this really interesting, this is the first time that, Andon and I have done a lot of work on jobs together. Andon has hired me to come help him with some of his projects. I have hired Andon to help me with my projects. But this is the first time where I started something and Andon had to finish it. So, a little background. I had a set of double doors, French doors, that I was doing for a customer that I had already done a single door for. All the doors were...
Oh, you did the first door? That came in. Oh, I didn't know that.
So all the doors had glass, and these were interior doors for to create an office out of a room that had no doors going into it. So I'd already done a pre-hung door over here that went from the office to the kitchen. Office had once been a dining room, but now it's an office.
Right.
So it went from the office to the kitchen. Had done that a couple weeks prior. The doors that he had ordered for the large opening, the French doors, had not come in yet. So I had to come back and do this. So I come back to do the big double French doors, and it turns out that these doors are huge. They're not only are they 36 inches wide.
And when you say that, you are not lying, because I was there too.
Oh my God, it's so
They're 36
big.
inches wide, and they're not an interior door. They are 1 3/4 thick. And interior doors are
With glass.
Interior doors are 1 3/8 thick. These were exterior doors, but he ordered them for this particular opening because they matched the other door that I put in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're beastly heavy doors.
Huge.
I get there. I'm there for
I
about
think each door weighed about 150 pounds. I'm not going to lie.
somewhere
it could
in
have
there.
been there.
Yeah,
Like,
somewhere around 150. I mean, they were thick, and
Yeah.
the glass is heavy.
Yeah.
So I get the first door hung and into this old crooked opening, and I get that first door hung and perfect, and I put the astragal on, and it's just ready. And so then I get the other door, and I have that out in the driveway, and I get it cut on both sides and trimmed, and a nice little bevel on both sides, and I'm ready to take it down off of the horses, and I'm going to put it over on the other side of the driveway where I'm going to mortise out the hinges with my router. And as I'm taking it down off of the horses, my right bicep just tears at the elbow. I heard it crunch. And my bicep is still up here, still healing. But
well,
in that
I'll
moment,
be darned. Would you look at that?
I remember thinking, oh, I'm done for today. I can't continue.
yes.
So I went and told the customer. He was very kind and understanding, and he was concerned about my arm. He was also concerned about when the hell these doors were going to get finished, because there's a baby involved in this.
Right,
and part of
right.
the reason they wanted the doors is because he wanted to be able to be in the next room while the baby was in
Right.
the nursery, which was these doors were going to be separating it from the nursery. And his wife was a little overbearing, let's say. So they were both
Sound
concerned
barrier.
about that. So
Yeah.
long story short, I told them I'm not going to be able to finish these doors for several weeks because of this. I only know one guy that has the skills to finish, because hanging 2 French doors in an old cased opening
Right.
where we're not changing the trim, they're not pre-hung or anything like that. There's very low tolerances
Yeah.
with stuff
These are
like
slab
that.
doors.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
slab doors that we're hanging from scratch. They're not pre-hung. And I was like, there's only one guy I know that could do this. And so they got Andon, and Andon went and finished those doors perfectly. And so Andon went back literally the next month. This was Friday that my arm got hurt. Andon goes back on goes there on Monday.
It's crazy because I had just had a cancellation.
Yeah.
And I had told him, I said, if someone cancels, and then someone literally canceled, and I called him, I said, you're in luck, because that never. I mean,
Yeah, we're always
booked out.
booked 2-3 months out. Always,
Yep.
And we're never available short notice. We're not emergency.
sometimes
handyman.
we keep a day open, and I try to do that so someone can call and say, hey, this little thing. So it's
And sometimes
flexible, but if you're trying to do something that's 3 days long,
And sometimes jobs don't take as long as we think. So we finish a half a day early or something like that. Anyway, so Andon goes back, finishes these doors. He does a beautiful job.
Thank you.
A week, 1 week later, 2 weeks later, you tell the story. Andon,
Yes. So it was about a week later. Everything's fine. Customer's super happy. I mean, ecstatic. This is great. This is great. Even one of the things that you show a customer when a door is hung correctly is when you shut the door and the latch just goes click.
Yeah.
And it's all perfect.
And you just,
yeah.
it just closes all by
Yeah.
itself. No pushing.
They call that carpenter's porn. If you find a carpenter with his hand rubbing a piece of wood where he's joined 2 pieces of wood together because it's so perfect, and he just keeps looking at it and rubbing, that's called carpenter's porn.
That's
It's when you
filthy.
do a real good job.
Yeah.
And because all the different scenarios. Anyways,
The story, you get a call
I get a call and a video
at 9:30 at night.
at 9:30 at night. I'm about to go to bed. I want to go to bed, but I can't, I can't just ignore a customer. So I take the call, I watch the video, and the customer tells me that the doors, when it closes and touches the astragal, they're sticking. And he shows me this whole video where he had, and I can't, and it's like looking through a telescope. I can't really see.
Time out. And just because.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Just time out, just so that everybody knows what an astragal is.
Yes.
An astragal, when you have two doors that are in the same opening and they're French doors, one is called the stationary door.
Correct.
And one is the active door. The stationary door uses slide bolts at the top and the bottom to hold it in place when it's not necessary for that door to be open. And then, so that this door closes like it's closing up against something, you apply something to the edge of the door. It's a very fancy piece of trim called an astragal. And basically, it just provides a door stop for that. So this door is closing up against the astragal, and it's sticking.
It's sticking. Doors were freshly painted on site. It's been a little bit humid. All the gaps and all the tolerances are perfect. There is no, it's not crooked. It's closing. So it means that something is sticking. And I just, in my head, I like the paint's sticking. And so I told the customer.
And because the doors were so perfectly hung, the whole door closed up against the astragal full length all at the same time. It wasn't like it closed at the top first.
It's like a magnet.
Yeah.
You close, like when you close a good fridge, and you try to pull it, it doesn't automatically let go.
Because that paint is still fresh.
Paint is bonding. Yeah, it's sticking and sticking. I couldn't just made something up. Not make it up, but it's critical thinking. I told him to get a Q-tip, just a little bit of Vaseline.
Yeah.
And wipe the edge of the astragal with Vaseline and see if that did it.
That's filthy.
Said, if it doesn't work, I'll come through next week sometime. And he texts me the next morning, all exclamation points. What a cool trick. It worked perfectly.
Yeah. It was awesome. And it worked.
Yeah, and it did work. And
so
it's a good trick.
That's a good trick. So if anybody's watching this and you have a door that sticks
really tacky paint or something,
because of a bad paint job or whatever, a little bit of Vaseline on one of those edges will keep the door from sticking. And since this is the Laugh and Learn podcast, what happened the next day? Because Andon told me all about this. The phone call was on Monday. The solution was Tuesday. Yeah. Andon told me about it on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I was working, and I sent Andon a text that said what?
It said, how are you doing? Good morning first. And I knew something was up. Anyways, by the end of the text, Tommy said his butt cheeks were sticking together. And every time he got up, he had to pull them apart. And he asked me if I had a way to fix the problem.
Filthy.
And I told him to wipe some Vaseline through his crack.
Yeah,
with a Q-tip.
No, your words were, do the same thing I told John and use a Q-tip and wipe some and he was right.
Anyway, it was right. It worked.
And
That's good.
I had the same problem. I didn't wait for the paint to dry. That's when we were sticking together. So,
all right, back to doors.
Back to doors. Okay, so I want everybody that's listening today to walk away with a little bit of like some good tips about doors. So I want to talk about how most doors, people always say to me, this door needs to be shaved. Mm-hmm. This door needs to be planed because the door is no longer opening and closing properly. Like it's getting stuck up at the top or it's getting stuck down at the bottom. And I would say, and you'd probably agree with me, that 99% of the time, those doors do not need to be shaved. It's because the opening has changed shape slightly through settling, almost always through settling like one side of the door frame. Like there's a door frame like this.
Yep.
And one side of the door frame has moved a little. I'm exaggerating it.
Right.
Causing the door to now hit at the other side. And instead of shaving, what do? We shim the hinges typically.
Shim the hinges. You could also, something I tell or do, I don't tell all the time, like do this because, you know, trade workers, we know this. We know all this stuff in our head, and we think it's, oh, this is just normal for us. And we tell a customer, just do this, and they're like, I don't even know what that is. So one thing I would do is I would check and see if any of the hinges did settle, and
Sometimes the hinges is loose.
it's loose, and you just
That's
do
all.
1 or 2 screws.
Yeah.
Get it back, or whittle down a little piece of wood, like a toothpick, stick it in there so it gets a little.
I would say, if we're talking in percentages, I would say at least probably about 20% of the time,
It's a hinge.
I am able to repair that door simply by tightening the hinges on, because especially if it's a heavy door.
Yeah, because
over time, getting open and closed, those screws that are holding the top hinge in work themselves out a little bit.
Just wiggle,
and that
wiggle,
top
wiggle.
hinge, it doesn't take much for that top hinge to be just loose enough that now the door doesn't open and close properly.
It
And
changed.
I'll tell you something else I do a lot. So I'm on job sites, and I'm coming in and out of the garage door.
Right.
And as soon as I get there, I'm coming in and out of the garage door to work on some cabinets in the kitchen. And that door doesn't open and close properly. I can't tell you how many times not all the time now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I can put up with it for maybe half a day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a couple minutes and I'm going to fix that door.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, by the way, at the end of the day, by the way, I fixed your garage door. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And they're like, that thing's been like that for years. And I'm like, no, I fixed it because I couldn't stand it. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
That's a good handyman.
that's a
right
good
there.
thing to check for. If a door isn't opening and closing properly, the first thing you want to look for, loose hinges.
Yeah.
Where screws need to be either tightened or maybe just a one or two longer screws in that top hinge.
In the right place. Yeah. It isn't. Sometimes doors, you fix a prop, like there are a lot of mysteries. Because there's a lot of angles, there's a lot of squares, there's a lot of different scenarios, and you go through a list, we'll call it a protocol, and at some point, after you're testing the door, it's fixed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know exactly what you did. If it was the screw you put at the top, or if it was the thing you did at the bottom, or the combination of all those things. But doors are tricky.
That's one thing I know I taught you, because I remember teaching it to Brad too. Brad was one of my other apprentices, is that if you're installing a new door, especially any new door, pre-hung or slab, every time you put one screw in,
Yep.
you need to open and close the door
And check.
Because if you're, let's say you're doing a pre-hung door and you put in
9 screws.
2 hinges at the top and 2 hinges in the middle and 2 hinges two screws at the top, 2 screws in the middle, 2 screws at the bottom, and now the door doesn't open and close the way you want it to.
Yeah.
You don't know
Which one?
was the culprit.
Yep. You have 8 different scenarios.
Now you got to guess. But if you one at a time, I put a top screw in and I could feel that jam move an eighth of an inch. I open and shut the door. That's exactly where I want it. Okay. Oh, wait, it's not where I want it. I need to back that screw up and put a shim behind the jam or whatever.
Yep.
So
you don't always have to shave a door like that. Taking a door
most of the time.
Popping the pins, taking a door out to a garage or outside on the horses where you have to plane it or shave it. That's a considerable process.
That's literally like 1% of the existing doors that need help.
And if that's like you get to that final point after all those things didn't work, then you're like, all right, we're going to cut the door.
Yeah, you make sure everything's working properly.
Yes.
Before you shave the door.
Yeah.
You never that's never the first thing. That's always like the last thing.
Yeah, because it would be, there's, we'll have funny stories, I'm sure, later, but you don't do the last thing first, because pretty soon you've cut the door 6 times, and now you need a new door.
Right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So let's just say this is a hinge up against the door.
Yeah.
Right? And people don't know about shimming a hinge
Okay.
to change the way a door swings. So you have a gap over here. And let's say at the top of the door, or this happens more at the bottom of the door. You have a door, and down at the bottom, you have a larger gap at the bottom than you do at the top.
Right. You're talking about on the hinge side.
On the closing side, the gap is a little bit larger at the bottom than it is on the top, and you have a little space at the top of the door.
Mm-hmm.
You can loosen the screws a little bit in this hinge and then stick something that's really thin, a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch, back behind the hinge, tighten the hinge back down, and now that hinge is an 1/8 of an inch over this way.
Correct. Yep.
You've now moved the hinge over an 1/8
Which
of an
means
inch.
the gap.
And now you've moved the whole door over an 1/8 of an inch, and now you've eliminated an 1/8 of an inch of that gap.
Right.
If you shimmed it an 1/8 of an inch.
Yep.
So shimming hinges is also a way to move a door around in an opening. The other way to move a door around in an opening and change it from this to this is by deepening the mortise.
That's
Right.
filthy.
Oh, there's a big word.
Deepening the mortise. The mortise is the vacancy that's left.
Right.
The opening that is left where you have chiseled out. So
Right.
if I use my chisel to make space for a hinge inside a door jamb,
Yep.
that space is called a mortise.
Yep. Mortise lock. This is Pennsylvania. Are the old locks where you had a mortise out this big square and this big old hunkin' lock, and they're cool. They're really cool. I think they're cool. But that's mortise. Yeah. That's the vernacular. There's fun words.
Yeah.
Astragal, mortise. Sure, we could. We don't want to confuse people.
We'll get into that later, but we're going to do the only other thing I think I want to
I've
mention.
glued pennies behind hinges before because they're a perfect
Yeah.
thickness.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't find anything, and the wood is pinching too much.
And they ain't worth a damn thing. A penny
Oh,
ain't worth
yeah.
a damn thing.
Well, what am I going to use that's perfect? It's metal.
Not a nickel. It's a little
Nickel,
thicker
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
worth something.
yeah.
You can still buy something with a nickel.
Oh,
You
my
can't buy
gosh.
nothing with a penny. You can't even buy a piece of gum now.
Correct.
I think they're talking about getting rid of pennies.
Are they?
Yeah, they're talking about it. You know who they are. Them. The people that
Okay.
are in charge.
Oh, my
anyway,
gosh.
the only other tip I want to throw out right now about doors is how we doing on
What
time?
kind of doors are there?
Interior doors, exterior doors, double French doors, sliding doors. We're not even going to get into sliding doors. We're just talking about hinge doors,
It's 5 different kinds. There's pre-hung doors and slab doors,
cabinet doors,
cabinet doors.
yeah,
There's
pocket doors.
pop. Do you like pocket doors?
I love pocket doors.
You do?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to change my attitude because when I hear pocket door, something inside me goes,
Why?
I'm not sure why.
I've
This is
installed a lot of
some
pocket
carpentry
doors.
therapy.
I have
Sometimes they give you a lot of trouble.
Well, I put it this way. Well, first of all, I've installed a bunch of pocket doors.
Yeah.
I have repaired a bunch of old pocket doors.
Okay.
And usually the only way to repair a pocket door
Is to take it apart.
it depends on how old it is. Like if it's a pocket door that was put in within the last 30 or 40 years, it was probably installed in such a way that you can remove some trim to get the door out of there.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
But
Yes.
if it's older than that,
It's in.
it's built in.
Yeah.
And those ones that I have repaired
It's
that are
kind of
older-
like supposed to be a forever door.
Well, it's not. I have repaired and replaced the hardware. A couple years ago, I replaced some old ones, but I
Yeah.
had to rip the wall apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to cut the entire wall
Right.
apart and replace
They're
all of the hardware.
they can be tricky.
Yeah. When they stop
But-
working, they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Anyway, the only other thing I want to cover about doors is the latch. And
Okay.
so if it's not opening and shutting properly and the latch isn't working and where the latch hits the strike plate,
Yeah.
first of all, you want to do what we talked about before, which was test everything first. Make sure the hinges are tight. Make sure the door is swinging the way it's supposed
Right.
to swing. Make sure it opens and closes without any resistance. Then address the latch. Don't address the latch before you check those things.
Yeah, because it would change.
Yeah, it'll change
you
after.
move the latch, then you put a screw in. Now the latch needs to be somewhere else.
Exactly, and that, when you're adjusting a door, if you don't adjust the door first and you fix the latch, then you adjust the door, the latch moves up or down.
It's just a funny scenario.
And now it doesn't open and close properly because you have a small window.
This is one of the reasons people are so frustrated with do-it-yourself stuff, and they go to Home Depot 67 times for one little thing, and your wife is like, well, are you done yet? And you're like,
well, you know what?
It's because there are so many different little things that could happen, and it's almost like, don't move, do this, do this, do this, do this.
But that's the do-it-yourself process.
Yeah.
That is the process. And I just made a video that didn't get nearly as many views as it should. I just did a video not too long ago, just like a month or two ago, a couple months ago, I did a video on how to have patience in the do-it-yourself process.
Oh, I watched that one. I like that one.
Yeah, and it
really like that.
It explains that
slow down. That was a good one.
Slow down, but just know that if you're doing something on a house, especially with doors, or if you're doing something that you're not an expert in, don't try and have a time figured out that you're going to finish.
Right.
And don't be upset or surprised when you have to go back to the hardware store. Okay. Now I'm starting a new segment for the podcast. This is the first time I've ever done it, so please be patient with me. But I hope on every podcast to have one or two crank calls where I have either called a contractor or a lumber store or a big box store and tried to mess with them a little bit with one of my characters. And that we're going to listen to that. We're going to listen to my first one right now, and then we'll talk about it.
Backyard products.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I was calling because it says you're looking for carpenters.
That's me.
Is that correct? All right, but the number, this is like, I live in Louisiana and down by the Gulf Coast, but this number that I called, it's not from this area. It says it's Michigan. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's where the company headquarters is at.
Okay, but you are looking for you're looking for folks down by me, yes?
Correct. Yeah. So the company headquarters corporate is up in Michigan, but we have a branch. We're a national company, so we have at least one branch spread out pretty much in every state of the country. So our branch is in Louisiana. It's in Slidell.
All right. What kind of experience do you need? I mean, I've got all kinds of experience.
All depending on what you want to build.
Well, if I had my pick, I'd be the mansions. I used to build staircases and high-end mansions and what have you, but there's not much call for that lately, and I haven't been working too much. So, I mean, I hate to say sheds are beneath me, but at this point, nothing's beneath me. I'd take just about any kind of work I can get. I got my own tools. I got my own truck. I've got it's a converted ambulance, but it's funny because I picked it up. It was an ambulance that was converted into an ice cream truck, and then I converted it from an ice cream truck into a work truck. So it's still got some of the ambulance stuff on it. It's still got some of the ice cream stuff on it, but it's perfect for a work truck. Anyhow.
Right.
So who would I be dealing with down this way? Would I just be dealing with people on the phone from Michigan, or is there somebody down here that I'd be dealing with?
Well, my name is Anthony. I recruit for that branch in Slidell. So yeah, basically, you most likely will deal with me. Basically, you'll just have like a kind of formal sit down with the branch for about an hour just to speak about the position.
And is he a nice feller?
Oh yeah, absolutely. His name is Lyle. Yeah, he's been there for a couple of years now. But he's real friendly fellow.
Well, that's good because I mean I've worked for a lot of assholes. I tell you what, it seems like in construction companies, the bigger the jerk you are, the more likely you are to get the job as the project manager. You know, and the nice guys end up
Yeah.
staying foreman and workers. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Sure.
it's just all ass backwards. But it don't bother me none because once I get on the job, I tune everybody out anyway. You know.
Right.
Let me ask you a question.
Right.
Do I
Right.
have to
I
with
could have
these
gone way
sheds?
harder on this
Are
guy,
they?
man.
Do I have to do any caulking
Just too nice.
or
I think
working with
these calls are
adhesives and
I'm
what
gonna get
have you?
meaner.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna get.
everything that we have as far as like the shed, like for
Is he a
example, the
nice
shed
fella?
building, it comes in a prepackaged kit. So all of the lumber is already pre-cut to size. So you still have to
That's
essentially
interesting.
frame everything out, but if they do opt for painting and all those other finishing products, then yes, we would have the builder do that. But of course, they get paid a little extra for that.
All right. Yeah, I'm fine with painting, but for some reason I'm allergic to caulk. Like I can't touch it
Oh,
with my fingers. My hands blow up like balloons if I touch caulk. Isn't that? It's a
right,
weird
right.
thing. It's like it's almost like a shellfish allergy. Like have you ever had anybody in your family that's been allergic to shellfish and they
Sure,
start going
sure.
into anaphylactic shock and you got to take them to the hospital and all that stuff. I don't go into anaphylactic shock with my face or nothing like that. I can still breathe and all that good stuff, but it's just like if I touch adhesives or caulk with my fingertips, next thing I know my hands just blow up like balloons and I got to go to the emergency room. But like I said, I can still breathe. You know.
Right, right, right. Yeah, that would be more of a like a kind of a situation where you would let the Lyle, the branch manager, know that. I mean, obviously,
You let him know.
if it's something
Lyle.
medical
Yeah.
like that, you have an issue with that. I mean, they could work around that. It's
Call Lyle.
perhaps not giving you
I'm
any
fine if
jobs that
Wow.
have.
I touched cock again.
I'm fine if I have gloves. If I have gloves, it's no problem.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
just need
still,
to wear
again, you
gloves
would just
now.
again, you would just let Lyle know that, and
Yeah.
but yeah, absolutely.
And do you hire people with disabilities? Because I got one leg, but I have a prosthesis, and I'm capable. I'm still capable of climbing ladders, and I mean I can pound nails with the best of them. You know, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, so I'm fine.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, we don't discriminate as far as disabilities. I mean, as long as you can do the work, I mean, that's what we really, really care about. You know what I mean? Obviously, being safe as well. But if you can do the work, no issues, then that's fine with us.
all right, and Lyle will be able to provide me with some, or do I have to provide my own gloves?
Um,
That-
that would be more of a discussion with him. Not sure. I know we don't normally provide that type
I
of
gotta
stuff,
go
but
harder on
I
these
mean, if
guys,
it's
man.
something that
Too easy on 'em.
obviously
Yeah.
he can provide, he will. But he would let you know either way.
All right, and you're sure he's not going to be all jerky and weird about my leg, right?
No, no. We like I said, we only. I mean, as long as you let him know. I mean, hey, I got one leg, but I can hang with the best of them. It doesn't, prohibit me from working. That's mainly what he's going to ask. Like, is that going to be a problem for you working? And if you tell him no, then that's all he really is, concerned about.
All right, that's good. Because the last guy that I worked for, man, he was just always teasing me and making fun of me because of it. You know, calling me names and all kinds of weird stuff.
Oh,
And that's why I've been
yeah,
unemployed for a couple months. I just couldn't take it anymore, and there was nobody to talk to about it because they didn't have an HR department. It was just a small little company, you know.
right,
And
right.
I just
No,
don't think
no.
it's funny to be.
Well,
I just don't think it's funny to be called names like pirate and you know. He was
sure.
always calling me Eileen and stuff like that, and it was just it was he was just downright mean.
Ali.
Right. Oh boy, yeah. No, we are a national company. We've been in business for well over almost 60 years now. So we have a HR department, recruiting department. We have a lot of different departments in the company. So that we do not allow. So yeah.
Okay, my name's Carl Lee. Just keep a lookout for it. It should. I'll fill it out as soon as we get off the phone.
Okay, sounds good, Carl. No problem.
All right, what's your name?
First name is Anthony.
All right, Anthony, I'll look forward to talking to you and hopefully putting up some sheds for you.
All right, sounds good, Carl. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
But yeah, I think this was my first one,
Yeah.
and I think
Boy.
these are just going to get better. But there were some funny moments.
Yeah, that was
I was too nice, way too nice.
Well, Anthony was nice. I would imagine at some point you're going to get a hold of somebody that's not nice, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're just gonna have. This is something that's gonna develop. This
Yeah,
is this is a part of the show that I'm just now starting to do.
This is part of the laughter part. This
But
will be good.
I'll get better.
Okay.
I promise everybody, I'm gonna get better at that. Okay. Well, that's all we have for today. I think we went a little long, but we'll edit it down. As always, thanks for letting us bring a whole lot of experience and a little bit of humor onto your job site.